In 1893, the first Newman Club in the United States was started at the University of Pennsylvania by 5 medical students. The purpose of their first meeting was to form an organization to help fellow Catholic students grow in their Catholic faith. The Newman Club made its way to Indiana University of Pennsylvania, then known as Indiana State Teachers College, on October 2, 1927. The Newman Club's stated purpose was to better acquaint Catholic students with the heritage of their religion and bind them together in friendship. This movement quickly began to pick up speed and spread to colleges and universities all over the United States. In 1948, the Newman Club became the leading religious organization at Indiana State Teachers College. During the following years, as the enrollment at the university continued to rise, the number of members within the club flourished. With the continued growth, there was a need for a facility that was much larger and closer. At the time, the St. Bernard Church was a 16-block walk from campus.
It was great. Close-knit, very small room. 60 or so people. We had a couple of masses there every Sunday. And folding chairs with kneelers on the back that often didn't work. If you tried to kneel down, sometimes you almost went on your tush.
While they had a temporary building, the start of something greater began. The planning for a permanent home was underway. With a donation of $500,000, they would soon have their own parish, located right near campus at 1200 Oakland Avenue.
When they decided that we were going to be a parish and that we were going to have a new building, real church to go to. Seemed like it took a long time to build, but it really wasn't very long once we broke ground that we moved into our new church. And we waited with great anticipation for that day.
May 18, 1966, ground was broken, starting the construction of a new building. The actual construction of the building began in early November 1966, while the steel of the building was erected in May of '67. The first Mass within the new building was in early February of 1968. Members came to pore over the new artwork and design of the building. IUP alumnus Ed Carlos created a piece of stained glass for the original worship space in the Perfetti Macaroni Factory, which is now in the kitchen of the new church. The stained glass in the building was designed by Milko Silianoff from Delmont, Pennsylvania. The Roredos, the large swirl behind the altar, is another showpiece of the new building. It, along with the ambo, the altar, the presider's chair, and the Stations of the Cross, were designed by the Armento Architectural Arts Company of Buffalo, New York. All of this work was dedicated with the church building on October 13, 1968.
Wow.
Ooh, ah. That's what it was like. First time I walked into the building, it was ooh, ah.
First time I walked into that building, as I said before, I came from a very traditional parish, so there were the altars that had been brought over from the old country, and it was beautiful and all of that. Walked into St. Thomas More, and it was this ellipse, it was brick.
It was amazing. A round building. I mean, all the churches I'd been in before were boxes. This one is round, and if you've ever seen our reredos, that's the artwork behind the altar. It's a swirl, it's not a cross.
It intrigued me because it was so totally different than what I was experiencing for the past years beforehand. And just that ellipse of the building, it's almost as if there's those wonderful arms of God just being there for us.
It's just so different, and it took my breath away, and still does.
With their new building, the members of St. Thomas More were able to reach out and create events that both students and community members could get involved in.
I think it is an important part of the community. It does give St. Thomas More some recognition as something that a lot of the community are familiar with and try to participate in. And it's a wonderful opportunity for the students. I work with all the education majors in the math department, so they're always trying to build up their library. And so they will come and find different kinds of math books or different kind of books that they want to use with their students. So even my students will talk about the book sale.
Pancakes at Midnight has been going on for probably about close to 30 years now. And what an enjoyable time that's been. They just want to see a smiling face at the other side of that window asking for pancakes. But the sense of community again with them at that time with simple pancakes, but it's something simple that brings everybody together.
It's wonderful that we are coming up on this 50th anniversary of the dedication of the current building that we're using. We have to remind ourselves that it's only brick and mortar. It's only brick and mortar that we come into that building and that surrounding. The church goes beyond that. We are called and we are missioned to go beyond the bricks and mortar of our current building and take the message of Christ out into the community, out into our workplaces, out into our families, into our circle of friends, and for us, out into the campus of IUP.
The community at our parish is like family.
Well, the number of families and how it's changed in the past several years, we've increased to nearly 700 families. And what's really unique about that, those are the regular parishioners, if you will. But every semester it changes with the vibrancy of the students coming and participating in Mass. And then there's that sense of true belonging and connectiveness that even continuing even after they graduate.
So I am encouraged because I see attendance increasing. I see students again joining the choir, and I see a lot of, when I cantor at my church, so when I look at the congregation, I see a lot of students singing with us, and it's just a wonderful thing to behold.
You know, Jesus reminds us that we are to love God with our whole heart, mind, soul, and body, and then we're to love our neighbor as ourselves. And it would be very easy to just remove that word love and place in service. How do we serve God with our whole heart, mind, soul, and body? How do we serve our neighbor as ourselves? And I think that's the one thing that we challenge ourselves here at St. Thomas More University Parish, working in campus ministry with all those different aspects that we try to offer, and in each one of them say, how are we being of service to God? How are we being of service to one another? And thereby deepening our relationship with Him and with one another.
I'm Paul Ritzik, and I do a lot of the motion graphics and animations in all of our videos. The Newman Center, I worked on 2 graphics, and they both gave me difficulties because the first one, there's a kind of portion where it shows the lines growing and how the church is, I wouldn't say influenced, the church group and the prayer group that the church was a part of was spreading across the country. And I had to make all these individual lines grow and shrink and stuff like that. And it was hard just because I had to be really accurate with where they were in correlation with the map, so I had to constantly reference it. And then another part was just there are a lot of moving pieces in it, so I had to keep track of all that, and it was a really big file, and it was difficult and time-consuming, but I thought it came out great.
My name is Marissa Ward, and I am the audio engineer for IUP-TV. While working on the Newman Center project, I did most of the audio, along with I got to work with After Effects, so I made my own tiny animation, which it took me way longer than it should have, but it was something new. It was a program I never used before, and it was definitely exciting and good for me to learn. I also got to do some project coordination for the Newman Center because we scheduled 5 interviews with 5 different people, and they all went really, really smoothly. It was definitely a very good experience and very good to learn.